Solo board gaming night here, and I know this is not a board game review, but I felt so inclined to talk about what I felt watching the Batman. Now, yesterday, my family and we played hooky. My wife, my kids, myself, we all ditched work, school, all our responsibilities so we can have a day together as a family, which we do every now and then. I just love when we do that. Just so we could get together and watch the Batman. And wow, I have so many things to talk about. And this is going to be a spoiler-free review of the Batman, starting with the Batman himself, Robert Pattinson. Now, I never really liked Twilight. I'll be honest. I've seen him dabble in a few other things, and he's done a decent job, so I know the guy can act. But I wasn't sure if he was going to be able to act as the Batman. But thankfully, I will say that he did a really good job being Batman. And on that note, he's Batman, like, I want to say over 90% of the, maybe even 95% of the movie. The guy is Batman, 100%. And Bruce Wayne, like, pops up every now and then, but this is Batman true. This is the most I've ever seen Batman in any movie. And this is a detective story, true and true. This is not the type of Batman movie that we've been seeing for years, for decades. This is a different type of Batman story. And there's good things and bad things about it. I'm going to be as spoiler-free as possible, but I will say that keep in mind, this is an extremely slow burn movie. And I don't mind slow burn movies, but sometimes I feel that certain things could have been edited to make the movie flow better. But let's get into the actual chemistry between the characters, starting with Batman and Commissioner Gordon. Now, the movie sets the stage, letting you know that Batman's already been part of Gotham City. People already know who he is, and he's already working with Commissioner Gordon. This is no spoiler. This was in the trailer. They've already known each other. It's kind of an uneasy alliance going more on they're trusting each other, but they're still not there 100%. But the chemistry between Jim Gordon, Commissioner Gordon, and Batman is really well. They do a really good job. It worked incredibly well. I love their chemistry. Good stuff. Catwoman. Catwoman is actually a really big part of the movie. Selena Kyle is there as well, but you're going to be seeing more Catwoman than Selena Kyle, just like you're going to see more Batman than Bruce Wayne. And I want to say it felt a little bit rushed at first, the way Batman and Catwoman got together, but overall their chemistry was really good. I dug it. It worked well with the story they tried to tell. It fit. It never felt forced. And I like the way it went. Now, with the Penguin shows up as well. And the Penguin is a different type of Penguin than what you've seen in probably any other iteration as well. Because he's kind of a mob boss character. Without going into spoilers, that's pretty much what he is. And it's a different take on Penguin, but it worked. I never felt like betrayed, because there were things about it that felt Penguin-like. But it's not the Penguin you expect. What I do want to talk about the Penguin, however, is that he was played by Colin Farrell. Oh my goodness gracious. I did not know that until the credits rolled. I had to Google that immediately because I had no idea that the Penguin was Colin Farrell. Kudos to Colin Farrell. I never got it till the end. I was on blackout with this movie. I didn't know anything about it. So that was a nice surprise. So Penguin, he did a good job. I liked him. And on to the Riddler. The big bada-boom. And this guy was hit and miss with me. Okay, this was, like I said, a detective story, a mystery movie. There's a killer, obviously. You know it's the Riddler, but you're trying to find out who the Riddler is. And this is where the Batman, it didn't fall apart, but there were parts that I was like, oh, that could have been done a little better. I wish that they would have portrayed Riddler. They had it. They had parts of him that felt like the Riddler, and other parts that I was like, you know what, this isn't Riddler-like, if that makes sense. You're going to need to see it to understand what I'm saying. Now, it didn't fully disappoint me, but it did disappoint me somewhat. It was a Riddler that I didn't expect to see, and mainly because I'm a big fan of Riddlers from the animated series, especially. And if you watched an animated series, you kind of get an idea of the type of personality that Edward Nigma. I don't even want to get there, but they did something with that too that I was like, why? I don't get that. But something they did with him as a character that didn't jive with me very well, but overall it wasn't terrible. It just was not what I expected. But at the end, it did end up working for what the movie was going for. Not my favorite, but it could have been a lot worse, and it wasn't terrible. Where I did get some issues, however, was the actual story flow. The way the story flowed left some things to be desired. There were parts that it was hitting all the notes really well, and I was feeling it so much. Like when it came to the actual action scenes or when something happened, it really had me at the edge of my seat. I was like, oh, this is cool. This is awesome. I was looking at my kids, and we were just looking at each other like thumbing each other up. We were like giving each other thumbs up. That was like, they were really, really cool scenes. Even my wife was getting into it. However, there were moments in the story, and it had to do more with the way the story would come together, specifically with Riddler's mystery, okay, that I understood it. I got it 100%. But the way that some of the things were presented to me as an audience, I was like, there were times that I was getting lost. I was like, wait a minute. What are we looking for now? What's going on here? Some things felt a little bit like a convenience. Like when it came to encrypting certain things, I would have liked to know more of how they figured out certain things without getting into spoilers. But I felt that they dropped the ball a little bit there, and there were some pacing issues where I felt that editing could have been favorable to certain scenes and maybe making things a little tighter, a little quicker, a little bit more straight to the point, because there were a lot of scenes that I felt that were just kind of like just lingering for a little bit longer than necessary, and it sometimes didn't work for the movie. And some scenes also felt very repetitive, especially with the way Batman stands and where he stands. It almost felt like they filmed many scenes at the same time and just put them in different parts of the movie. There was a lot of repetition in that way. But overall, the story worked. It didn't blow my mind. I thought I was going to like it more than I ended up liking it, but it was not a bad movie. Okay, it was a good movie, a good Batman movie, but it didn't beat The Dark Knight in my opinion. But there's one thing that I want to talk about before I go with this review, and it's just with the score. The musical score, great score. However, oh my goodness, it was starting to grind on my nerves because there were four notes. I don't have it sounded like this. Dun 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 dun. Those four notes would repeat over and over and over. It has to be hundreds of times. And there were points in the movie that I was like, please listen. Can you at least add like a sixth or seventh note? Please do something else. Stop playing the same four notes. It's driving me nuts. And it was fine the first hour, but by the second and a half hour, I looked at my kids. I was like, are you guys noticing that there's only four notes that are being played, and like the same song, like there's this other song that just keeps getting played over and over again, and even when they played a different instrument, it was still the same four. I couldn't believe it, but it was hilarious. But at the same time, I wish it would have been a little less obvious, I guess. But as just a nitpick, it didn't break the movie. I just noticed it. Maybe you wouldn't have noticed it if I told you that, if I didn't tell you this. But now that I told you this, if you rewatch the movie or if you go watch the movie, you're going to hear that dun, 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 and know that you're going to have 3 hours of that. It's crazy. But overall, I like the chemistry between the characters. I like the actors. They committed. They did their role. There were things I didn't like. I'm just going to be honest. This is not a 10 out of 10 movie in my opinion, but that's my opinion. Doesn't mean it won't be a 10 out of 10 for you. It's just for me, it fell short of that. I usually don't give number scores to board games or anything. I would have rated this somewhere between maybe an 8, 7.5, but I'm going to lean towards an 8. I would give it an 8 if I were to give it a score. But that's where I land overall. I love the characters. I love the story. Some parts and other parts, I didn't like the story. But the chemistry between the characters, I think, is what really shined. I love that Batman was in there. This is the Batman movie. He's in there, and with Catwoman and Commissioner Gordon too, and the three of them do a great job. Alfred's in there as well, but barely. So I mean, I haven't really talked about him because he's barely in there. But yeah, there was things I liked, things I didn't like. It was a great time. I had a great time. And I'd be interested to find out what you thought. It's a solo board gaming night. Thank you for taking your time to watch something completely different other than board games. Board game reviews are coming, by the way. But life has been hectic, and I'm just so glad I spent time with the family. I think at the end of the day, what I took away from the Batman, although the Batman was a good movie, I had a great time with my family, and I think that was the highlight. I'm so glad we did it. This is Solo Board Gaming Night. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I hope you guys all have a great game night. Take care.